Welcome to episode 10 of the Nueva Vida Group podcast. We are a privately owned real estate advisory service that advises the high net worth and ultra high net worth community on real estate acquisition, project management, and development. The Nueva Vida Group podcast is our opportunity to invite our audience into an informal but hopefully informative conversations. And this week we are going to be talking about the principles of buying high value property abroad. In my experience, how this normally works is that we will have a conversation with a client over the phone, or we'll go to their house, or meet them for lunch or for dinner, and really understand and start the process from there. And it's almost getting a brief, an opportunity for them to really just kind of speak about all the things that they want, also their situation, where they are in life. Is it a trophy asset? Is it a holiday home? Is it an investment? So it's really an opportunity just to have a blank canvas and just understand exactly what it is they want.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, often we meet clients and it really is just a general informal chat, just to listen to what their sort of likes and dislikes. And I think what I've noticed, especially with holiday home purchases, generally they always seem to go back to an area where they've had a good experience as a family. So I think when they go on holiday, for example, or they go and visit somewhere, or they have friends who have a home somewhere and they sort of go and spend time there and they sort of think, actually, I'd really love to have this ourselves, or, other friends are thinking about buying and they're going to buy at the same time. It always comes back to sort of like that. So there's no hard sell, is there, really? It's just sort of understanding, listening to what their wants and likes are.
And it often comes back there where they've probably been going there for years. So
Yeah, a lot of the time.
they maybe even had a home there in the past, and they want to upgrade, or they want to have a change of kind of home style. But typically they would have been going there for years, or a part of their family or part of their friends. They've gone there on holidays and they just had a really good time. It's ticked all the boxes, like a lifestyle destination. Is it good for their kids? Is it good for them to work from? Which is also importantly, a lot of these people, there needs to be certain distances away, or so yeah, I think I lost my train of
One of the
thought.
things I always like saying to clients is that go and spend some time there. I think when we have our initial consultation with a client and we sort of sit down and we go through our process, so we sort of ask them very specific, very targeted questions to sort of help them, make decisions and help them think about the things that are important to them. Almost always I'll say, when was the last time you were there? And they might say a couple of weeks ago, or in the summer, or last Christmas, or a couple of years ago. And I'll always say, right, look, the next steps are that we'll go away and do our research and take everything you've said to us today and try and identify the right homes for you. But when we're planning a trip, why don't you go for 3 or 4 days before and have 3 or 4 days after, because it is quite intense when you're going on like a property viewing tour. And not everyone can do this, but when you are going on a property viewing tour, that day or 2 days we spend viewing properties is quite hard work. Like, it's very tiring. So I think having that bookended trip means that if they get more and more familiar with the area that they want to potentially buy a home in, B, they're quite relaxed. I think it is important to go through that process quite relaxed. And then the third thing is that after they've got some time to actually sit with the properties they've seen, go back and see the homes at a different time of day. We often, don't we? We do a viewing, we might see 2 or 3 properties in a row, and the one they like the most, or the two they like the most, will almost always go back at night. And even we set it up, don't we, with with a bottle of rosé or whatever the clients like and don't like. We set them up so that they can literally just sit there, relax, almost pretend and experience the home that they're potentially going to buy.
Always sitting there for half an hour, they can trial it.
It's so important.
Same with the rosé, but we had, we bring espresso machines, so because you believe some of these homes don't have that ready, which is, it's another topic, isn't it? But it's having a coffee and sitting outside, because we're predominantly in sunny destinations, and outdoor living and is a big part of that. And let them sit outside, let them sit on their own as a family, and imagine what this is like going forward. And I think it's a real powerful tool. And we step out of the way. The local people are there with us. We all lead them to it, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important because, you know, we're dealing with serious high-end clients at the top end of the market. You know, they are not wanting to be sold to. They want to just have a good experience and enjoy what they're doing, and they know probably what they want. Where we come in is to then obviously help them through that process. You
Yeah.
know, we do all the work at the front end, finding the right properties, and then all the legwork of making sure the transition from viewing to actually acquiring the home and moving into the home is as smooth as possible.
I think you've touched on it now, but I think ultimately the importance of having the right advisory team around these clients is critically important. And we mentioned, towards the start, it's very much about understanding them and understanding their objectives and ambitions. And then phase two is arranging travel and meeting them abroad. We go through the viewing process, which, as you said, is quite time consuming and mentally absorbing. So we view properties, two or three in one day, and we may see them multiple times in a day, so the morning and the afternoon. And then it's introducing them into the legal partners which we have, which is fundamentally important. Access to our financial advisors, and then potentially project management as well.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, there is a whole team around the whole exercise, isn't there? But for our clients, you know, what the priority needs to be is having someone that actually listens to what they're looking for, understands it, goes away as a short list and finds the right properties, goes and sees them themselves, which is what we do. And when they then arrived, all of that team sort of infrastructure around the transaction is already in place. You know, I would say it's a real strength of ours as a business is that, you know, we work with some amazing lawyers who truly understand, you know, dealing with clients at this level. They also understand the nuances of international property ownership, you know, worldwide tax, various things like that. Finance, you know, it's a really important part, you know, especially as interest rates keep going down in Europe. Especially, you know, it makes more and more sense to finance some of these transactions, but you've got to be working with the right people to do that, and we do. And then not all of the homes that we acquire are specific to the client's initial brief, and some of them need additions made or things done to them. And again, our in-house project management team can step in and take care of that for them. Yeah, I think it makes the transition for them as smooth as possible. That's the key. I mean, that's what we set the business up for, wasn't it? You know, when we first started doing this, you know, we were sort of working in a relatively traditional agency style model. It's a long time ago now, but relatively traditional agency style model. But the gap there in the market was that people on the ground in these areas didn't necessarily understand what the buyers really wanted, and they were sort of looking to make a quick sale or a quick deal. And you know, our experience is that isn't reality. The reality is that they can't be rushed. Clients want to take their time, understand that they're making the right decisions. One of the things I would say is by having the right team around the transaction, which we do, means that when they find the right home, they can move with the market and move really quickly to acquire it. So I think it's well worth all that work that we do at the start and throughout the viewing process of building up to it. Because actually, you know, if you do go and see the right property, a lot of these markets that we work in are very competitive.
Yeah.
And often there's multiple bids or lots of interest on specific homes. So if you've got all those things in place, you can move so much faster.
Yeah, I think just adding that towards the end of that as well. I think aftercare is a big thing as well. It's not just the transaction, is it? It's what happens after the process. Some of these homes require ongoing support. We like what we're doing in some of our projects in La Quinta. I mean, I think you can go into detail about your aftercare, but it's a massive part of the transaction, isn't it? And
It's one of my biggest bugbears. It really, really annoys me is that in a real estate agency world, salespeople sort of really just like to get the deal done, and then they sort of you can't get hold of them. Once you've agreed a deal, it's very hard to get hold of people. Obviously, the really good guys out there are much more contactable, but the ball's dropped for a lot of clients once they've found a home, especially if they've gone out and found it themselves and sort of looked at worked with different agencies in the market and not used an acquisition service like ours. But once that ball's dropped, a lot can change and a lot can happen to a home in a European country, especially. You've got variable temperatures, super hot summers, much cooler winters in some places. Atlantic Ocean, for example, in Quinta del Lago, it causes a lot of damage to properties. And all these things need to be managed.
Yeah. Swimming pools, massive. People just
Swimming
think
pool,
you can leave a swimming pool for
leaks,
a year and it just,
tiles slipping.
yeah,
Yeah, our aftercare service and team are, I would say this, but they're unbelievable, aren't they? To be able to step in and take care of everything. One of the other things I really like about the aftercare side of our business is that, our clients should be able to just arrive with their suitcases.
yeah,
So they normally will, we ask them to send us a shopping list before they arrive. So even the simplest things like the fridge is fully stocked, their favorite wine is in the house, um, their favorite chocolate, simple stuff. Because imagine arriving at your new home and then you've got to get back in your car and go to the supermarket.
yeah.
That's not a
It's just
great experience.
just the little things, isn't it? Which I think
Yeah,
what, especially in this market that we operate in, it's more the little things, the things that one would assume is mandatory, but you'll be amazed how it's just completely forgotten about.
yeah, 100%. I mean, we do work with some great agents that are operating at a level like us and provide a service like we do. But generally across the board, we've had a few meetings in the last few months with people that have already bought, and you're learning from their experiences. It's quite a shame, really, because actually it sort of spoils or sours the process. Whereas I think, for our clients, they don't have any of that worry. They can trust us and trust the process that we sort of implement, so that they do arrive. It is seamless. Naturally things will go wrong or they can't find things, but we've got 24-hour phone line. People can contact us any time of the day for anything, and quite literally anything. Where's the best place to get a pizza delivered, or oh my god, all the lights have gone off, I don't know what to do.
Leaks, keys not working, security systems malfunctioning, all this stuff, isn't it? It's the small details, and we can resolve them within an instance, which I think it should be mandatory, to be honest.
I think it should. I think it should. I don't think it's fair that, or right, that the responsibility ends at the point of acquisition. I've seen it before where, people have gone and collected keys at the notary and that's it.
Yeah,
What do we do now? They turn up at their house in a foreign country and don't really know what's next. But, I think our aftercare team and service that we provide is a must. And I think, again, they're involved throughout the process as well, because we're building up to it. So, we go through the process of finding the property. You and I personally go and see every property before it's shown to a client, see if it matches the standards. We do the due diligence on the property before they've seen it. We make sure everything is present and correct. We then set up the viewing. So the viewing experience is great. Our driver picks them up, takes them to the property. They arrive, they're offered a drink, a coffee, they're given time to spend at the property. They decide on that, that's the one for them. Well, whilst our legal side and all that sort of stuff is being taken care of, we can also look at the aftercare side straight away. We can get ready. You want something redecorated before you arrive. You can arrive 2 weeks after completion. Well, okay, we've got a window. We know what we need to do during that window to get it present and correct and ready for you. And I think, hopefully, I really hope that service makes our clients' lives easier and they enjoy it even more.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's also worth re-mentioning is the access to the correct legal advisors and financial advisors is fundamentally important. You need to have the ones which specialize and I suppose the structure that you need. So there's not there's different lawyers who have different specialisms, which we have located and have worked successfully with people who can navigate that, because it is a very not it's not a difficult process, but it needs to be done correctly, and it requires patience and strategy and execution. So, and then
I
that's
think,
exactly the same for finance as well.
yeah, inherently, like any market, European, real estate markets are the same. You've got people that really understand the high net worth, ultra high net worth client and understand how that looks on a global picture as well as a local picture. And then you've got quite a lot of people that don't truly understand it, and that gap is huge. So if they're not working with the right advisors at the start of the process, there's a lot that can happen during that time of search and sort of acquisition, and then actually owning the home. I think now more than ever, to have that discretion of someone advising you from the start is, critical to finding the right property. You don't want to buy the wrong home. It comes with a lot of extra stress if you do. And actually the process of buying, and then obviously you bought an asset well, and then selling it in the future if you wanted to. So I think having an advisor on board the whole way through the journey is critical now.
Yeah, I agree. But that's it. Thank you very much for listening. That was episode 10, which is the principles of buying a high value property abroad. Any questions, drop us an email, and we'd love to help.
Hopefully it was a helpful one. I think it was a good one, wasn't it?
I think I really enjoyed that. I think a lot of people don't understand what we actually do, and I think it's an ongoing piece. It's being received really well, and we're doing well, so it's working.